Okay, so we got it up on the lift, and we're gonna just do a little walk around or a crawl under and check this thing out. So obviously it's 42 years old, and not sure what kind of maintenance has been taken of it, but we're looking underneath. It got, you know, it looks like an old Jeep. There is just a lot of corrosion, a lot of dirt and dust. So really what I'm looking at is, I want to be looking at the suspension, if we've got, you know, the spring purchase, if it looks like they're cracked or the bolts are loose. Got a strange little clank when it's sitting on the ground, parked, and I turn the wheel with the engine going, power steering going. It's a little click, so almost like something is shifting, like a broken frame. Hard to tell, but I'm immediately just noticing this guy right here, one of the bolts on the steering bracket to the frame, to the steering box. You can see this one is like, basically it's fully encapsulates the bolt. This one is, the edge is broken off of it. So that's one thing I'm gonna put on the checklist. Turning these guys, the rod ends, definitely dry. It's got a zert fitting down there. Doesn't look like it's been used for a while. And we'll check the other side out. Yeah, about the same thing. Obviously it looks like probably wouldn't hurt to put in, you know, just replace all the rod ends on this. Looking up at the pitman arm and the sector shaft. I don't feel the, when I'm driving it or parked, I don't feel that little clank coming from that section here. So up front here, this is a Dana 30 axle. It's got, in that year, it had 11.5-inch brakes, I believe, and the wider rotor. So I think they came out with a narrower rotor on later models. They were probably trying to save weight. Maybe they became more efficient with the braking and the pads on there. I did look into some of the paperwork that Shane had with his vehicle, and the brakes were just gone through. I think I mentioned that, but so the pads are new. Looks like they put reman calipers on it. Worn hubs. I have tried these because we were in Moab with the Gone Jeeping team, and so this was like a heavy duty hub. Later they came out with like the 5-bolt little plastic jobs on the later CJs in the 80s, and those things were junk. They would just break just because they could. So on the Dana 30, I don't know, I'm gonna put it on the ground and a little bit later and raise the tires up and down. All right, so I mentioned that we're getting a little kind of a knock in the steering, like you turn it on the ground with power one way and the other, and it's just a little clink, clink, clink. Was trying to figure out what that was, but now that I have it up on the rack, one way to check your wheel bearings or, you know, components is, but just giving the wheel a good shake back and forth. If you got loose bearings, it's going to clank around a little bit. That's not what this other noise was that was coming from. We're going to check that out in a minute, but you can see not only have I got a lot of play there, but you can hear it squeaking. So those bearings are like super loose. Now, if I come around here and crank that wheel a little bit, I can see that is fully inside the hub. So that's wheel bearings for sure. And we'll go check the other side out. See what this looks like. Yep, same thing. All right, just locked in that hub. Oh, yeah. You can hear that. That is play in the front axle U-joints. Lock in this hub as well. Definitely hear the play on the other side. Yeah, this one's got this one is the same thing. All right. So when we pull that apart, it's just going to have to be part of a new U-joints and the axles. I believe those are 1310s. So these things haven't been touched in many, many years. So I'm going to end up, we're replacing the springs. We're going to have the axles out. I'm going to end up putting some WD-40 on everything. Now you can see this is a beautiful thing. Look at those. These are like super authentic old Rancho shocks. You see this one's got a big dent. Like, I don't know, like there was some clearance issues with the brake caliper. That happens. But I'm not, we'll see as I go down the frame though. I was looking for cracks, because this thing did take a bad roll in the Darien Gap, and then I understand it was also rolled on the Rubicon again later on near the slabs. So it does obviously have paint on it, and sometimes you don't see cracks within the paint. Looking at the rear shackles and the bolts, you can see it's a plate that's bolted to the frame. So those are going to come off, and you know, I'll inspect what that mount looks like. See, a lot of this stuff has been tab welded. You know, this is the aftermarket bumper they put on. But I'm also looking up at the cross members. We're moving around back. Like I said, you can see we got some new brake lines on it. That's a nice bonus. But let's see, these are fuel lines going up here. These look pretty original. In the back here, this is the AMC 20. Got, I don't even know what the diameter is, but fairly large drum brakes. And you can see this is bent back a little bit. That's because that shock mount hangs down and it's been hit a number of times probably. But this particular axle, I checked the width on it from the flange plate to the other flange plate. On the CJs, it was 50 1/2 inches. They had a 54 1/2 inch axle. I think they put on other vehicles, like, I don't know, maybe the Grand Cherokee or Wagoneer, that type of thing. Look up here at the upper shock mounts. Obviously, we're looking down here. That's a nice new exhaust as well. Hopefully that will help with, well, let's see. Take a quick look here. Looks like they put a new cat on it too. So, yay, California smog. And all right, well, I can tell you one thing. Before I dig into this too far, I'm gonna pull it down off the rack, take it to the car wash, and spray all this dang grease off of here. Yikes, I hate working on stuff when it's just a pile of grease. So you can see on this particular vehicle, it uses the fairly heavy-duty skid pan. Looks like it's been beat on a few times by rocks and whatnot. You remember this is an old Rubicon rig besides Expedition de las Americas. And it actually acts as the cross member for the transmission transfer case mount. So if we move in here, yep, that's the Dana Spicer 20 transfer case, fairly heavy duty. They made it for a number of years from the early 60s to the late 70s on a number of different vehicles, Jeeps, Scouts, all kinds of stuff, Broncos. This one on the Jeep has a 2.03 to 1 low range, so not exceptionally low. I think we did mention that like Terraflex Terra Low makes a 3.15 gear set for it, which would be really nice to have. But you can just get a little bit of clanking coming from the brakes when I spin the driveline. It was going to jump back in here while we're looking at axles. When it was in the Darien, it broke a couple of axles, and when they got back, they put in, you can see the ME, that's Moser Engineering, so they put the one-piece axles in it, which is a huge upgrade. The two-piece axles that they had in there were prone to fail. But yeah, we got a few of that U-joint dry, and got clanking going on there for the drive line, so I'm gonna put that on my list. Check the front out here real quick. I'm guessing it's probably the same. Oh wow. Not only is it the same, we got major slop in that drive line. In the splines. Yeah, that's no bueno. Front U-joint feels okay, but man, that's not good. I'm also looking for play as the yoke comes out of the transfer case. It feels pretty good. I'm not getting much play at all. So it looks like the drive line, gotta address a new drive line because these splans are, obviously it's kind of at the limit of its, the suspension droop. I mean, it doesn't have a lot, but that right there makes me nervous. And we'll keep moving on here to the back. So back to the AMC 20 rear axle. This model came with a 354 ring and pinion, and I found the original documentation for the vehicle, and it had the track lock in it, which is limited slip posi. Here's one for you. Hopefully the inside of the tank doesn't look like the outside. There's another cursory scan here on the frame. Look at the spring purchase. It's one thing about old Jeeps. It wouldn't have been these spring purchase. The inner, the fixed ones usually don't go, but the front and the back are usually will end up getting torn off, often in the front because there's so much load when you're cranking the wheels, jammed up against a rock. Wow. What am I gonna do to restore Edla? All kinds of surface rust. There's a little actually, you know, through the body, a little bit deeper rust. Cobwebs, can't imagine. But yeah, looks okay. Bolts look a little pulled and undersized, but who knows? Frame and body mounts. All right, so one of the things that I've noticed on this vehicle when it's sitting is that it leans towards the driver's side. So it's got a little bit of a pitch or a roll to it there. And I realized why. It's because this body mount, basically the frame to the body mount here, you can see it's crushed and the metal on the body broke, shoved it right up through. And yeah, that is one of the reasons I was worried that the frame was bent or something, but it doesn't look, yeah, we'll find out. I don't think that's the case, because if you look over here on this side, the previous owner had put in some support plates, so kind of a wider footprint for that body mount. Yep, and that's probably what I'm gonna end up doing on the other side. These look like they're holding up, but this vehicle had, you know, taken a beating. It was rolled over in the Darien. It's also rolled over on the Rubicon one time during Jeepers Jamboree. So that one is okay. This one is okay. These, obviously, you see that was probably had an issue too. They put a support plate under the rear passenger side. And we'll move over to the no plate on that side, but you see there's a little bit of a compression here on the body. So I will probably address that too with a little support. The center, this one's never been touched. This is what kind of rust we got here, a little surface rust. Ooh, Black Widows. And then again, back to the front here. So that one had collapsed in the front. So hey, another little project. Yeah, lots of grease. Gonna take this sucker down and power spray the crud out of it. Again, this would be the rear spring perch on the front axle. That looks okay. I'm also looking for anything that might have clearance issues with the suspension flexes up and down, or you drag something underneath the, rock underneath the vehicle. This one looks like they put a bead weld across the spring perch at some time after it came out of the factory. The outside of it looks pretty original. Oh, look at that. 40 years worth of grease and engine mounts. That one looks okay. That one starting to crack a little bit. Nothing too serious. Actually did have something in the paperwork that he had engine mounts put in, but that one's already getting some little stress fractures or cracks on it. And the other thing I want to look at is the engine mount perch to the frame. Looks okay on the front on that side. Yeah, okay. All right. So another thing I'm feeling here is the kind of play we've got in the pinion gear. Trying to hold this in one spot. Turning it, you can feel there's some play in the differential. But how much of that is normal differential play and how much is, say, the ring and pinion itself? So normally backlash, I'm trying to remember, it's probably about 7 thousandths backlash on the ring and pinion. So we won't be able to look at that until we pull the front axle apart. We're getting about 10 or 15 degrees maybe play. So, all right. So it looks like we got our work cut out for us. I'm gonna take it to the car wash, spray it down, clean it up, and then we're gonna bring it back in. And first I'm gonna WD-40 all the bolts because most everything's coming off. And then we'll dig into the axles, take a look at that, and make sure it's a 354 gear set, see what kind of shape they're in. Take a look at that track lock that's the factory track lock that's in it, and we'll go from there. So thanks for joining us. Hope you stick around for the next one.
True tracks are a pretty precise unit.
11th hour. FedEx just showed up. Spindles. This is like the ultimate in style.